two items on the agenda today. I'm going to pull this mask off so you can hear me, and those that are participating by Zoom can hear me better. Two items on the agenda. First is, let's skip 2305. I'm hoping Senator DeBar is going to be here to explain that momentarily. 2725, this is our annual bill that we reference as the transfer bill. This is essentially bringing forward several code sections that deal with the items that we'll have to consider when we set our budget for this year. The first 5 sections deal primarily with the 2% set aside that we've traditionally kept pursuant to law, and also the rainy day fund or working cash stabilization fund. There are no changes to any of these sections. This is just to keep the code sections alive when we get to the point that we are setting the budget. Section 6 includes a change, which is removing the authority to use capital expense funds to pay for some orphaned wells. That was done last year to put $2.5 million to take care of those. They now have their own reserve funds at the Oil and Gas Board to take care of those orphan wells, so they do not need this section. We do not need this section anymore. That authority has been removed. And finally, Section 7 is the transfer portion of the bill that allows for any changes when we get to the point of having to move money from the capital expense fund to the general fund or the budget contingency fund, or vice versa. So as we move the funds between those different funds, that keeps the code section alive for that purpose. Any questions about the transfer bill? Motion, Senator Blackwell. The motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Now, moving back to Senate Bill 2305, Senator DeBar, do you want to explain this bill to the committee? And at the appropriate time, I'm going to explain one point, but I'll let him explain the contents of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2305 is a bill that Senator Blunt has worked on, Lieutenant Governor's office, as well as the Office of Student Financial Aid, and it involves loan repayment for teachers. There are currently several loan repayment programs that we have on the statute that basically allow for loan repayments. And so what is done here is it consolidated the loan repayment programs into one statute, and it creates a distinction for those who are teaching in a non-critical teacher shortage area and those that are teaching in a critical shortage area. And it begins on line 48. You can see that and the dollar figures here can change depending on the appropriation. We talked in education. Senator Blunt mentioned he'd request about $3 million in appropriations, but that can fluctuate. But you can see that in a non-critical teacher shortage area, $2,500 for a first year teacher, $3,500 for a second year, $4,500 for a third year. And then down on line 60, for those in a critical teacher shortage area, it'd be $4,500 for a first year, $5,500 for a second year, and then $6,500 for a third year teacher. For those that that aren't in education or haven't heard, our teachers in the first 3 years, we're actually in the first 20, 25 years, make less than the southeastern regional average. So, and most come out with a student loan debt, and so we're trying to give them some type of incentive to become teachers, say in Mississippi, versus going outside our state. And so that's kind of what the bill does. Like I said, it consolidates many other statutes in place now, which are kind of confusing. This is going to be in one place and make it a lot easier for teachers to apply for when they go for loan repayment. And I'll yield for any questions.
Thank you, Senator DeBar. I had considered putting a reverse repealer in this bill in committee, or attempting to, because I want to make sure to see where we are in the appropriations process, to see how much of this we can be able to fund this year. And also, I've talked to Senator DeBar about some of the changes, some of the ideas that I have essentially, I would like to see us work somewhere close to like a 2 times multiple on the critical teacher shortage areas, because I think that's where we need the biggest issue, is those areas where we're having a hard time getting teachers. So make it more, give them more incentive financially. But rather than trying to get into the weeds of what's going to be better for critical areas, and also to see what we can be able to afford this year, I think, and also to prevent this bill from having to go back to education, I've requested council to prepare a reverse repealer for the floor action so we don't have to take it back if it passes this committee, because I do want to look at those 2 things, and I would encourage members of the committee, if this bill advances, to visit with Senator DeBar and myself too about ideas you may have on the if we're going to make this work, that we're focusing on what's going to create, 1, more opportunities for teachers to get in the profession, and 2 is to attack the areas where we have critical teacher shortages. With that, I'll yield to questions. Senator Wiggins?
Just technical. I thought if we amended, it does have to go back to education.
I'm not. I plan on amending it on the floor.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
In fact, I'll ask the chair of the education committee, if he has no objection at that time, if he'll take it up upon presentation. But we'll decide that up on the floor.
Which, if I may, I think that's, for the reasons you stated, that's a good idea. I think there's some other issues to look at on this that, so that would be a good thing.
Are there any other issues that you want to discuss? You might as well, we got a few minutes, so other issues that you think need to be discussed beyond the 2 issues that I've mentioned?
Well, I think you're actually addressing it, because I think my concern, and I somewhat, I think, expressed this, was the slippery slope argument. And while we certainly want to get our teachers there, they are government employees, and so how many other government employees are we going to do loan forgiveness for? You know, I think this is an exception because of the teacher shortages and what we have. But I think those, and I think with what you're suggesting, the 2 times multiple gets to that point of showing how far or where we're focusing our efforts on. And I think that's good. And also my thing was the money too. How much can we afford this session, and how long are we going to continue to do this? And will this end if we do miraculously reach the point where we don't have any teacher shortage? So those are just some thoughts that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes. Senator DeBar, you recognize.
Thank you, sir. We're not creating a new loan repayment program. We're consolidating several that are out there already, that are on the books, that haven't been funded. And so we're not carving out a new exception for teachers. We're just consolidating one that's already there on the books. So to say that we're creating a new carve out for state employees, I think we're not doing that. We're just basically putting them all in one program versus there's I'd say 10 to 15 programs for loan repayment at this point. We're just putting it under one statute is what we're trying to do to make it easier. So does it have to be funded? No, because most of them haven't been done in the past, but we're just trying to, you know, put them into one program. Most of the programs that are out there now are up for repealer this year as well, so they would repeal, and we're just trying to get something on the books, one easy program, and whatever the appropriation allows for is what it allows for, and will be acceptable with that.
Cool. Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you recognize Senator Wiggins.
Were those programs forgiveness programs, or were they grant programs? Because my understanding was they were grant programs.
They were loan forgiveness programs.
They were all forgiveness programs?
Yes.
Okay, so we already had those on the books.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Thank you, Senator Wiggins. Senator DeBar. Senator Hill, you're recognized.
Where it designates geographical critical teacher shortage area. I thought as this goes along, we may need to look at subject area, critical shortage subject area as well. I don't know what those numbers look like, but it may be worth pondering. I know it's like getting a physics teacher is like finding a tooth on a hen.
Sure, that would be, I'm glad. Senator DeBar, you're just hearing on this. I've even expressed too that there may be a need to kind of redefine or tweak the critical shortage area, because I've looked at,
I think you're on the right track with
looked at
that.
the list in some areas, frankly, I'm not sure need to be on there, and there may be some other areas that need to be on there, but that's something I think needs
I think some of
discussion.
those subject areas, some of those higher level subject areas are difficult to find anywhere in the state to hire.
Well, thank you, Senator Hill. Senator Turner Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't really have a question, but it's some information that I would like to receive at some point. If there's a way to calculate the average amount of indebtedness for a teacher that attends school and graduates here in the state of Mississippi, what amount is left owed after they complete their education? That's something I'd like to know.
Good question. I don't have that information. Senator DeBar, do you have that information? Okay, we might can find that out. Obviously, I think some of that's going to depend on, well, a lot of factors. There are different tuition rates at our schools and yeah, scholarship, a number of things. So anyway, that's one of the issues. Hopefully, Senator DeBar is keeping a list of some of the kind of questions that may need to be looked at as we get this resolved. Okay, thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator Delano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Chairman of Education for working on this. I know that this is something that his committee and leadership has been working on for a while to kind of consolidate that. One of the issues that we brought up in Education Committee is the fact that, yes, this program starts in year one of employment. I would like for the chairman to consider possibly starting in their first year to cover what would be equivalency of the interest carried for these loans, and then for the principal to be paid back in years 2 through 6, so that it will help get them to a vestige in the state retirement program and give them a reason to stay in the program for a little bit longer. And that's what we're trying to do, is to prevent some of the teachers from, our new teachers from giving up a little bit too early before they really learn the ropes. So that's my statement, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Delano. You mentioned that to me in the Education Committee, and I thought certainly some merit in the idea of a graduated increase in the repayment, so you keep teachers engaged as opposed to giving them all of it early on. I mean, not that this bill is doing that, but I kind of came up with my own numbers, and that's part of the reason that I think I decided it's better for us to, let's keep this vehicle alive, but there are a lot of those kind of issues that need to be looked at in more depth to see if we can strike the best product possible if we're going to get this passed. Other questions? Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the concept of the bill. I do have a question, though. This is supposed to be a loan repayment. What guarantee do we have that these monies are going to go toward the loan payment, so that the teachers don't end up in default, taking it and spending it and not applying it toward the loan?
I'll recognize Senator DeBar to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In working with the Office of Student Financial Aid, they're going to create rules and policies. If you look on, I think it's line 95, it talks about they'll promulgate rules, regulations necessary for the proper administration of the section of this act. And so I agree with you, it needs to be going to student loans versus just whatever. So if it has to be directed right to the loan, that'd be fine with the creditor. That'd be fine as well.
Thank you, Senator Blackwell. Any other questions? If not, motion.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion would be title sufficient, do pass, committee sub. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That bill will be reported. I'll entertain a motion to rise and report. Rise and report. So moved. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.